the defendants are in court with their lawyers, the people are represented, and the juries are both present in the courtroom. Good morning to all of you. Good morning. And we're ready to resume with the trial, and the people will call their next witness.
You could call Dr. Golden to the stand.
Please raise your right hand. If you solemnly swear that the testimony you may give in the trial shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please take the stand and state your name for the record.
Irwin L. Golden, IRWINGOLDEN.
Dr. Golden, what do you do for a living, please?
I'm a deputy medical examiner. I'm employed by the Department of Coroner in Los Angeles County.
How long have you been employed by Los Angeles County in this capacity?
Since 1980.
Could you please state the training that you had in order to become, in order to have your job?
Yes, as a deputy medical examiner, I'm a doctor of medicine, licensed to practice in California. However, I have advanced training in pathology, which is the scientific aspect of medicine, the laboratory aspect. And I specialize in the performance of autopsies to determine the cause and manner of death. And I've received 5 additional years of training in pathology and forensic pathology, and I'm board certified as a forensic pathologist.
So let me back up. You went to medical school?
Yes.
Where?
Went to the University of Illinois College of Medicine.
That was 4 years, correct?
Yes.
And then what did you do after those 4 years?
4 years of pathology residency.
And where did you do your 4 years of pathology residency?
At the University of Illinois Hospital.
And then where did you go after that?
Then I had 2 years of military service in the medical corps as a pathologist.
And what branch of the military were you in, sir?
I was in the United States Air Force medical corps, so I was 2 years military service.
Okay, now that was after your 4 years of pathology residency, correct?
Yes.
And during the 2 years of your military service, did you perform autopsies?
Yes.
Then after your 2 years of military, where did you next go?
Then I was in the practice of pathology, not forensic, just hospital pathology for several years. And then after that, I joined the coroner's office in 1980 as a as a deputy medical examiner.
Could you tell us what a forensic pathologist is, and then describe the other kind of pathologists?
A forensic pathologist deals in those matters that come in contact with the law, and basically forensic pathologists specialize in performance of autopsies to determine the cause and manner of death of deceased who fall under various categories that are not natural processes, accidents, suicides, etc.
Are there other kind of pathologists, in other words, people who perform pathology who aren't forensic pathologists?
Yes, the majority of pathologists are hospital pathologists.
And just briefly, what does a hospital pathologist do?
Hospital pathologist, basically the pathologist who runs the laboratory at hospitals and diagnoses biopsies, pap smears, and runs all the, he supervises all the laboratory aspects of the hospital. He also performs autopsies on hospital patients.
So some pathologists look at tissue from living people, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how many years did you work at this hospital before you joined the coroner's office?
From 72 onward.
So from 1972 until 1980, you were employed there, is that correct? Is that yes? All right.
Yes. Yes.
Dr. Golden, how many autopsies in an average year do you perform?
At the coroner's office?
Yes.
350 to 400.
Would Los Angeles County be considered a busy coroner's office?
Oh, yes.
Prior to your beginning with the coroner's office in 1980, approximately how many other autopsies had you performed?
Well, definitely not as many as here would be in the several hundred, nowhere near in all that time as, let's say, 1 year in Los Angeles.
Right, so that the years that you performed autopsies prior to 1980, you would have performed a few hundred in all those years, and then once you joined the LA County Coroner's Office, you performed on an average between 350 and 400 a year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if you've been with the Coroner's Office almost, let's say, 13 years, that's in excess of 5,000 autopsies.
Yes.
All right. On August the 23rd of 1989, at 9:30 in the morning, did you perform an autopsy upon the body of José and Erik Menendez?
Yes.
Now, Dr. Golden, during the course of your testimony, are you going to need to refer to your autopsy report in order to refresh your memory as to what you did?
Yes.
All right, and that's what you have in front of you, is that correct?
Yes.
And that autopsy report is an official record of Los Angeles County, is that correct?
Yes.
I take it you've testified before in other courtrooms?
Yes.
Okay, and do you have an independent recollection here today in court as to everything that you did regarding the two autopsies you're about to testify to?
No.
All right. Up on the board, Your Honor, is a diagram. There are two copies of them. I'd like that marked as People's 89. It's the male diagram, please.
Exhibit 89.
Thank you. Dr. Golden, in preparing your report of the autopsy of Mr. Menendez, did you list various shotgun wounds that you observed to his body?
Yes.
And did you give them numbers?
Yes.
And by giving them numbers, did you in any way mean to indicate the sequence in which they were inflicted upon the victim?
No, absolutely not.
Are you able at this point to tell us which wounds occurred prior to which other wounds?
No.
And in regards to Mr. Menendez, how many individual wounds have you documented in your autopsy report?
I documented 6, but I documented 6, not implying the number of separate shots involved.
Okay, so there is a distinction then between the wounds that you're going to describe and the shots inflicted. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So what you're going to tell us about then are 6 different areas of wounding in addition to some other findings that you made. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And I believe that you indicated in your report the first wound that you documented was wound number 1 to the back of the head. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach, please, Your Honor? Now, the photograph has been marked. It is Exhibit 78. Dr. Golden, I'd like to ask you if you recognize the wound which is depicted in photograph 78.
Yes.
And is that the wound that you referred to in your autopsy report as wound number 1?
Yes.
Right. And could you describe for us what is depicted in this photograph and what that wound is, please?
Well, it shows the back of the head or scalp, which has been shaved by the coroner's photographer to show the shotgun entrance wound or hole on the back of the head.
Your Honor, this time I'm going to place a tag with the number 1 next to the wound, not on it, to depict that as wound number 1 for purposes of reference. And I'm also going to put a tag with a 1 on it on the diagram 89, Your Honor, near the area where the wound was. And I'm going to put this photograph on the board. Now, Dr. Golden, from where you're seated, can you see this photograph?
Yes.
Okay. Would you please describe for us, well, first of all, as an autopsy surgeon, can you distinguish the difference between entrance wounds and exit wounds?
That's part of the job. Yes.
Okay. And the wound which is depicted in the photograph on the board, which we are going to call wound number 1, is that an entrance wound or an exit wound?
No, that's an entrance wound.
All right. And could you tell us why that is an entrance wound?
Well, it has all the characteristic appearances of an entrance wound.
And what are the characteristic appearances of an entrance wound to the back of the head?
Well, if it's a so-called contact wound, that is the muzzle of the weapon, in this case the shotgun, is placed directly in contact with the body, in this case the scalp. And here this would mean the entire load.
What do you mean by the load?
Well, the load of the shotgun shell, that would include the pellets and any wadding material that's packed into the shell to separate the pellets, the individual pellets from the powder charge. So that was that entered the head, the inside of the head, and I recovered pellets along with the wadding.
All right, now when you talk about the wadding, are you referring to a portion of the inside of the shotgun shell?
Yes.
And you recovered wadding from this wound, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, is there anything about the tearing to the back of the scalp, which is depicted in the photograph on the board, which indicates to you that this is in fact an entrance wound?
Yes, two things. The scalp is torn, so those lines extending out from the hole indicate tearing of the scalp. That would be caused by the explosive charge, the gas coming out of the muzzle of the shotgun enters the scalp and then lifts the scalp up and tears it. So that's characteristic of an entrance wound.
Let me interrupt for a moment. Is that called something? Is there a word for that? For the tear, that pattern that you see on the back of the back neck? Is the word stellate something used in your report to describe the tearing?
Yes.
So I believe you've indicated then that this is in fact an entrance wound to the back of the head of the decedent. Is that correct?
Yes.
And I believe in describing it, you also said it was a contact wound. Could you tell us what a contact wound is?
The muzzle of the weapon, in this case the shotgun, is placed in contact with the body, in this case the scalp.
And when you say contact, are you talking of any distance between the end of the gun and the skin, or are you talking about the gun being placed right up against the skin?
Well, in this case, it's placed against, it would be placed against the hair, which is pressed against the skin, but that's a contact wound.
And now, why do you say this is a contact wound?
Well, it has all the appearances, a large defect, these radiating tears, marked destruction of the bone inside the head. Plus, I found a black deposit of soot on fragments of bone, which is characteristic of a contact wound.
Now, during the course of your testimony, I think you're going to be making reference to the term soot and also to the term stippling. Could you tell the jury what soot and stippling are?
Soot or smoke or powder gas is what comes out of the muzzle end of a gun or rifle when a shot is fired. That's the part of the charge that explodes and comes out of the muzzle end of the gun along with the bullet or the shotgun load. It's part of the small explosive process whenever a round is discharged. So that will come out of the muzzle end in addition to the bullet or charge. Stippling, gunpowder stippling, sometimes known as powder burns, refers to the small particles of gunpowder that come out of the muzzle end of the gun, also along with the bullet whenever a shot is fired.
Now, I believe you've indicated then that you saw soot inside of the head. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, did you see any soot outside?
No.
Okay, now, why? What does that mean to you?
Then, if there's a tight contact or seal between the muzzle end of the gun and the body, then there won't be soot on the outside. It will enter inside. If the muzzle is off by a small distance or several inches, then the soot will make a ring or a ring or a circle around the outside of the hole. That would make it a close range wound.
Okay, so if the soot is inside of the wound, then that would lead you to believe that it was a contact wound, and if it's outside the wound, that would lead you to believe that the muzzle was some distance from the wound. Is that correct?
Yes, roughly. If it's only on the inside without being on the outside, then it would be a contact wound. If it's outside only, it would be close range. If it's outside and inside, it could be very close, near contact.
Now, we're using terms in your testimony like close and very close without being precise and using inches and feet. Is there a reason for that?
Yes, there is.
What is the reason?
The only way to get an exact distance or range of fire, particularly with a shotgun, is to fire the actual weapon with the ammunition that was used. That's the only way a ballistics or firearm specialist can tell you the exact distance. There are too many variables in load, length of barrel, charge, ammunition used to be precise. A forensic pathologist can classify them only in range approximations: contact, close, or distant.
All right, so when you're talking about close, well, contact, I think you've described. Close, what are you referring to? Inches, feet? Just, can you give us a range?
In a shotgun wound, close is meant to imply that the shot pellets are in one tight group and enter the body in one tight cluster. They haven't separated yet. That's generally what can be meant as close. There hasn't been any spread of the pellets, so that's variable. It depends on the barrel length and the ammunition used. When it gets distance, the pellet starts separating, and again, that could be variable. Normally, with the usual barrel length shotgun, it's taken to be from 5 or 6 feet. The pellets start spreading out and giving an individual pattern. And with the sawed-off shotgun, it'll be closer. It could be 3 to 4 feet. So that's generally what we mean by close. One hole entering, one volley of shot, tight cluster entering, producing just one defect.
Okay. Now, referring back to this wound, which we're calling number 1, I believe you indicated you recovered some wadding and you also recovered some pellets. Do you remember approximately how many pellets you recovered?
Yes, 12.
And did you find anything that you associated with exit wounds in regards to this wound number 1?
I found 2 small tears compatible with exit wound, meaning where pellet or pellets may have exited or left the body.
And where did you find those tears, please?
One was on the right ear. Another was on the right temple.
I'm going to refer now to the diagram, which is 89. The second paper that appears to be assigned to you, and I believe you indicated in your testimony that there were 2 wounds. I think you said right ear. Could you just come and make 2 dots on the head? And then I'll reproduce them on the other one. There's 2 dots on this diagram. Okay, Your Honor, I will try to reproduce that as accurately as possible. Now, with this particular wound, would you have expected to find more exits?
No.
Okay, why?
Well, many times a contact wound of the head does not produce many individual exit wounds. Many times there's a large defect, and a lot of the pellets may just exit through one large defect, or I guess you could say hole in the skull.
Does the presence of the skull hold in any of the pellets?
Yes, many times it does, yes.
Now, do you have an opinion as to how this wound number 1 contributed to the death of Mr. Menendez?
Well,
What is your opinion about this specific wound?
well, it's a fatal wound with massive injury to the skull and brain.
Now, would this wound have been classified as an immediately fatal wound?
It appears to be immediately or a rapidly fatal wound, yes. There's no way a forensic pathologist can tell you exactly how long survival is, only in a few instances only.
Well, in terms of immediately fatal, if that were your diagnosis, and that's what you're saying is
Or a rapidly fatal wound.
well, how long would it take before the heart would stop pumping? Would it be less than 30 seconds, less than a minute? Or do you...
Again, that's something that I can't unequivocally tell you, because there are always cases of remarkable or unusual survival with very severe wounds that can't be, that can't always be accounted for. And I mean, we have evidence of that in many cases or reports, so there's no unequivocal way of saying exactly how long that would take.
If a person had sustained a wound like that, they would not be able to move after that wound, is that correct?
Yeah, it appeared, by all appearances, with the multiple skull fractures and the brain injury, yes, it appears to be by all accounts, a rapidly fatal wound.
Moving now to what you've described as wound number 2, all right, in your report. Could you refer to that part of your report, please?
Yes?
Okay, could you please describe for us, and may I approach again, please, Your Honor, where wound number 2 was?
Well, the wound number 2 group was on the upper arm and the right forearm.
Now, referring to diagram 89, could you tell me, well, is it better to use the back view or the front view to illustrate wound number 2 with these dots that I'm going to use?
The front view.
All right, and wound number 2, what you referred to now, could you describe it for us in words?
Well, wound number 2 is what I've already classified as a distance shot. There was no single hole or entrance. It's a number of individual pellet defects.
And
Six on the 6 in number on the upper part of the right arm, above the elbow region, and that is a distance shot, characterized as a distance shotgun wound.
All right, would you please come to the diagram 89 and show us on the diagram where wound number 2 was? Now, you drew diagrams of each of the wounds, is that correct?
Yes?
All right, is that part of what you're referring to in formulating Exhibit 89?
Yes.
Could you show us on this diagram where wound number 2 is? Just point it at, and I have them show a sticker. All right, now, where wound number 2 is above and below, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to put 2 stickers, one above and one below. That's the wound number 2. And could you please tell me where the wound entered? In other words, did it enter the front of the arm or the back of the arm?
Well, it would be the front, what I would refer to anatomically as anterior, but I guess it could be considered the front of the arm.
All right,
In front of the elbow region.
All right, so anterior then means like the front of my arm where I would bend it, and what do you call the back of my arm?
That's the posterior is anatomically what's referred to as the back of the arm.
All right, so the wound number 2 then, the entrance was to the front of the arm?
Yes.
Is that correct? And the exit would have been to the back of the arm, is that correct?
I don't believe I've described any exit wounds with this one. I recovered some pellets
Right.
and no wadding.
And do you remember about how many pellets you recovered from wound number 2?
Yes, all I was able to recover were 2 pellets from the wound path in this case.
Did you find any soot deposit affiliated with wound number 2?
No, this was a distant shot or a distant type of shotgun wound.
And I believe you indicated there were 6 individual defects, indicating that there were 6 individual little holes, which would relate to 6 little pellets. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. What was your opinion as to what kind of damage this wound did to the decedent? Would that wound have caused him to die if it was the only wound?
No.
Would it have incapacitated him?
Actually, it didn't strike bone. It appears... Well, correction, I'm sorry about that. I wasn't reading farther down. This wound did cause a fracture of the upper part of the right arm, the right humerus. So in that instance, it would be an incapacitating wound because of the complete fracture of the right arm or right humerus.
And moving on then to wound number 3, could you please describe for us verbally, and then we'll go to the chart, what wound number 3 is, please?
Well, that group was on the right upper arm, but on the back, actually, it's on the precisely, it's on the back of the right forearm.
All right, by the forearm, do you mean below the elbow?
Yes.
All right, and that's wound number 3, and I'm going to put it on the back portion of this diagram 89. And I'm also going to show you a photograph, and I'd like to ask you if in the photograph you can identify wound number 3 for us.
Yes.
Okay, where is wound number 3?
It's on the back of the right forearm.
Okay, is that here, Dr. Golden?
Yes.
All
Can I
right.
see what you're pointing to?
Yes, I'm sorry, right here. I'm going to put a number 3 next to it.
Thank you.
What exhibit is that?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, this is Exhibit 75, which has been marked, and I'll put it above the wound. So I believe then, is your testimony that when you say the wound is to the back of the forearm, does that mean that the entry is to the back of the arm?
Yes.
Right. Now, I believe that you indicated when I asked you about wound number 2 that you use terms like anterior and posterior. Is one of the reasons you use those terms versus back and front because you don't know what position the arm was in when it was shot. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. For our purposes of having not been to medical school, then wound number 3 was to the back of this arm. Is that correct?
Yes.
But it in no way means to indicate that the arm was in any particular position, except that the bullets entered through the back of the arm. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you also describe a wound as wound number 4?
Yes.
And what is wound number 4, please?
These were shotgun pellet wounds. Again, distant type of wound of the left elbow with recovery of multiple lead pellets.
I believe you indicated in your report that there were 9 individual pellet wounds in the area of the left elbow, of which 5 you recovered.
Yes.
And were you able to determine where the entry was? In other words, was the entry to the back of the arm, the back of the elbow?
The elbow, by definition, is the back.
All right.
El-
Well, is there a medical term for this?
That's the antecubital fossa that you're pointing to.
Okay, so it's the inside of my elbow, right?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
And wound number 4, I believe you've indicated would have been here on the left elbow. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have that, Mr. Greenhaven? This wound number 4 to the back of the elbow, do you have an opinion as to whether or not that would have been fatal?
Ordinarily, this is not a fatal wound. It did not strike any vital organs or structures.
Moving ahead now to wound number 5. Could you please describe verbally for us wound number 5?
That was a wound of the left thigh without recovery of any projectiles.
Now, where did the wound enter and where did it exit? Where was the
It
entry?
was located on the lower left thigh, sort of on the inside of the lower left thigh.
Your Honor, I'm going to place a 5 then next to the inside of the left thigh on this diagram 89, and I have a photograph here which is Exhibit 77. I'd like to ask you if this depicts the wound that we've been talking about, wound number 5.
Yes.
And I'm going to mark the photograph with a 5 placed just on the photograph near the wound. This wound number 5, I believe that you indicated that the entry was on the inside, what we would call the inside of the thigh, and the exit was on the outside portion of the thigh. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And could you give me some more detail about this wound, please?
This wound had a single large hole or defect, but it appeared that there was beginning separation of the shot, because I saw 2 what we call satellite pellet defects. Satellite meaning separate holes away from the main hole. That indicates it's beginning separation. So again, I can't give you the precise distance. It would depend on the shotgun barrel length and the shotgun shell used. Normally, with the usual shotgun that's not sawed off, separation begins at around 5 or 6 feet. That's the estimate. Somewhere in that vicinity, but there's no way of telling exactly. So this is, it's obviously not, it's not a contact or a close range wound. It's beginning separation. So it may be, if my conditions are satisfied, the usual type of barrel length, be somewhere between 5 or 6 feet.
Now, did you notice any satellite defects in relationship to the entry wound?
Yes.
I believe your report indicated 2.
Yes.
And that the satellite means that some of the pellets have strayed from the central core and make individual entry. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were you able to recover any of the pellets from this wound, number 5?
No, it appears to have gone through the leg and exited on the outside of the thigh, opposite the entrance wound. I didn't recover anything on that.
And in addition to your opinion that this was a distance wound, then there was no soot or stippling. Is that correct? As to this wound?
That's correct.
And what did this wound do to the leg? What kind of damage did it do? May I approach your honor? I think I put the dot number 5 on exhibit 89.
Well,
Just gonna move it over. Could you please tell us what damage it did?
it caused a complete fracture of the left femur or thigh bone, and it was completely separated. The bone ends were separated, so it was completely mobile.
Would that cause a person to become incapacitated?
Yes.
So you wouldn't be able to walk on that leg, is that correct?
Yes.
Would that wound have been fatal if there had been no other wounds?
I wouldn't say it's an immediately fatal wound. It's just incapacitating.
In addition to the wounds that we've described, did you also find any kind of abrasion to the chest of Mr. Menendez?
Yes.
Right. And I think for our purposes, we're going to refer to this as number 6. Could you describe for us what kind of abrasions you found to the chest of Mr. Menendez?
Well, on the front of the chest, to the right of the midline or sternum or breastbone, there were a number of abrasions or scratches.
All right. Your Honor, for the record, I'm going to place a number 6 on 89 in the area that's just been described, in the general area that's just been described. And I have here a photograph which has been marked as 76. I'm also going to place a red dot next to a ruler that's on this photograph 76. Dr. Golden, showing you photograph 76, does that depict the injuries you just described and which we're going to refer to as number 6?
Yes.
Placing this now on the board. Dr. Golden, could you tell us what this is, please?
The entire photo?
Yes, what are these injuries depicted in the photograph?
Well, there, as you said, there are multiple abrasions or rubs of the skin, and there's also one pellet defect also on the photograph.
Now, could you, for those who didn't go to medical school, could you tell us what an abrasion is? What is your definition of an abrasion?
Abrasion is a blunt injury caused by scraping of the skin on a rough surface. What would ordinarily be called a scratch or a rub or a burn, where the skin is broken but not the deeper tissues.
All right, so that would be like skinning your knee or something would be an abrasion?
Yes.
Okay. And I believe you indicated that there was a pellet defect contained within this area called number 6.
Yes.
Okay. And could you tell in which direction the pellet was traveling?
Well, it just, this was a superficial pellet wound. It went into the skin and struck the sternum or breastbone. So,
Can you see it in the photograph, that individual pellet wound you've described?
I believe so. It's sort of dark.
Okay, could you maybe come here? I'll bring this other photograph and circle it, please. Could you circle that for me? Do you see it in the photograph? And could you also circle it on this photograph too? Thank you. What caused this? Can you tell what caused wound number 6?
Well, I know it caused the shotgun pellet wound because it was recovered from the bone.
As far as the other reddish portion of this, what was
You want to know about the abrasions?
Yes. Could you tell us about the abrasion, please?
They're probably related to the shotgun wound.
And which shotgun wound are you referring to?
Probably the one of the right arm, the right arm and forearm, which we discussed earlier.
Was that wound number 2?
Yes.
And in that photograph, it appears that there is some area that is not abraded. I'm sorry, Mr. Brown, one of yours has a question.
I can't see where he circled that.
Oh, okay. Well,
All right, well, perhaps you can do it again with something darker.
in the photograph, I've now marked it with a thicker black pen. Dr. Golden, in this
What
photograph.
exhibit is that photograph?
I'm sorry, I think it's 76. I'll have to turn it over. Yes, it's 76. Dr. Golden, in Exhibit 76, there appears to be portions that are, I guess, striped, or I don't know what if there's a medical term, but you see here right next to the circle, there's an area here that's white. Can you explain what would cause that to be white and the other portions along here red?
Well, the white area is normal skin that's not abraded or scraped.
All right, so that skin was not then exposed to whatever abraded the other skin. Would that be correct?
Yes.
In addition to the 6 wounds that we've discussed, did you find anything on the right lower thigh of Mr. Menendez? I believe you need to refer back to the beginning of your report for that.
Yes, I referred to minor abrasions on the right lower thigh.
And I believe you described it in your report as being annular. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, what is that in English?
Round.
Okay. And what can you tell us more specifically about these abrasions on the right lower thigh?
Not much.
Were you able to tell if these
They were nondescript, and I didn't see any particular pattern. All I can say is that in shotgun wounds, particularly distant wounds, there are abrasions caused by wad marks. That is when the wadding, whether it's felt or cardboard or plastic, strikes the skin but doesn't embed in the skin. And in shotgun wounds, particularly distant wounds, very often there are wad marks or wad abrasions, which just indicate that it's a distant shot, and the wad strikes the skin, causing the mark. So that's not uncommon in shotgun wounding to have additional abrasions, not pellet wounds.
But abrasions similar in color then to what is exhibited in photograph 76?
Yes, many times, yes.
Now, I'm going to put just a red dot that's unnumbered here on the right thigh to indicate that separate area, because that is also the last area we'll be discussing. Were you able to tell the age of these abrasions, how long they've been there?
All I can say is they appear to be recent, all of the same age.
And by the same age, are you talking about the same age as the other injuries that you've already described in your testimony?
Yes.
Now, after examining Mr. Menendez, are you, as part of your job, to determine the cause of death as to an individual? Is that
Yes.
okay, and what are your choices as a coroner? What are the things that you can say about the cause of death?
I'm not sure about.
Well, can you say it's suicide?
Well, that's the mode.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. As to cause of death, what was the cause of death as to Mr. Menendez?
Well, the cause of death was multiple shotgun wounds.
And wound number 1, the one to the head, is the one that would have been immediately, or you used another word, fatal.
Rapidly.
Rapidly fatal.
Yes.
And the mode of death, which is what I was referring to. You have choices as to mode of death as a coroner, is that correct?
Yes.
And what are your choices?
Homicide, accident, suicide, natural, or undetermined.
And what was your determination as to Mr. Menendez as to the mode of death?
Homicide.
May I have a moment, please, to check my notes, Your Honor? So as to Mr. Menendez, there was one contact wound, which was to the back of the head. Is that correct?
Yes.
In addition, do you cause tissue and blood samples to be taken from the decedents in order to determine if there was any kind of drugs or alcohol present?
Yes.
And as regards to Mr. Menendez, did he in fact have any kind of alcohol present at the time that his blood or tissue was tested?
Yes. Yes.
And what was the blood alcohol?
Decimal point 0.04%.
Okay. Now, 0.04, well, you're aware of the drunk driving laws say that a person is legally drunk at 0.08, is that correct?
Yes.
So this is half of what that is that correct?
Yes.
Now, in determining blood alcohol readings, is it fair to say that you can't determine if the person you can't determine at what time the person drank the alcohol based upon the reading, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to ask you about is time of death. I know sometimes people ask you about time of death. Can you tell us how precise you can be in terms of these particular autopsies as to time of death?
Not very precise.
What are some of the factors that contribute to how you determine time of death?
Well, the internal body temperature is taken. The coroner's office takes the liver temperature. That's the internal body temperature to determine possible rate of cooling of the body and the degree of stiffening or rigor mortis or are used by medical examiners to try to give an estimate or range.
Is the temperature in which the body is found, that is the ambient air temperature, is that a factor in determining how fast the body cools?
Yes, there are many factors, and that's why it's imprecise.
Are you able, in this particular case, as to Mr. Menendez, to give us, with any precision, the time of death?
No, especially in this case, there was a long delay in the coroner's investigation, not the police, the coroner's investigator taking the body temperature. So the estimates would be too imprecise for our purposes.
Referring now to the autopsy you performed on Mary Louise Menendez. Again, on August the 23rd of 1989, did you perform an autopsy on a woman, Mary Louise Menendez?
Yes.
And I believe in your report you indicated that you had identified 10 separate areas of wounding. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And again, as with Mr. Menendez, the order of the numbering is not your opinion on the order in which the wounds was inflicted. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, referring to Mrs. Menendez, starting with wound number 1, could you describe for us where wound number 1 was located, please?
Shotgun wound number 1 of the head, particularly, was on the left cheek.
What can you tell us about this wound, please?
It was a contact wound with soot or smoke deposit in the deeper tissues on the pathway. And I did recover some plastic wadding in this case.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have here another diagram. I'd like to mark it, please, as Exhibit 90.
Oh, for sure.
Dr. Golden, I'm going to show you a photograph which has been marked. This is photograph 85. Photograph 85, can you see wound number 1 in this photograph?
Yes,
And I believe you've described it as being to the left cheek, is that correct?
yes.
Could you point at that for me, please? All right, Your Honor, he's identified a wound to the left cheek. I will mark this with a green dot as wound number 1, and I'll place it next to the wound. Now, I believe you indicated that was a contact wound and you saw soot inside of the wound. Did you see any soot on the outside of the wound?
No, I did not.
I believe you indicated you recovered some pellets, is
Yep.
that correct?
I recovered, as I didn't the first time, there were birdshot pellets and a plastic wadding.
And now, are birdshot pellets different in size from the other kind of pellets that you recovered from Mr. Menendez?
To my naked eye examination, yes, birdshot are the smallest type of pellets you can recover.
Do you have an opinion as to what kind of damage this wound number 1 would have done?
Well, there were extensive fractures of the jaw, and well, there were multiple fractures of the skull associated with this, along with the problem that there were other gunshot wounds to the head. So when they intersect like this, it's impossible to say exactly what caused, which wound caused which fracture, because their pathways are too close together. The one I'm going to describe subsequently, too, is also into the head on the other side.
All right, let's get on then to the next wound, which is wound number 2 in your report. Where was wound number 2, please? As for the record, I'm going to put a 1 up next to the left cheek on diagram 90. I'm going to move this one over so it doesn't obstruct all the others. Where was wound number 2?
The one I grouped as wound number 2 involved the right cheek, the eye, the nose, and the nose, and a portion of the left cheek.
Could you please leave the witness stand and just point out to us what grouping you're talking about as wound number 2 in this photograph?
I'm referring to this cluster here.
All right. And
The forehead, the eye region, the nose, and the cheek.
including the upper lip, I think. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes.
All right, Your Honor, I'm going to put a signature on this one on both the diagram and the photograph, which is Exhibit 80. Now, the kind of shot or the kind of pellets that was used in wound number 2, was that different from the kind of shot from wound number 1?
They were larger than the ones in wound number 1. Wound number 1 I described as the tiny ones, birdshot. These appeared to be larger.
Did you recover any pellets from this wound?
Yes.
Do you know exactly how many pellets you recovered?
No, just as best as I can do a representative sample.
And did you notice, how many individual pellet wound defects did you notice as to wound number 2?
Approximately 10.
And do you have an opinion as to what kind of damage this would have done? In other words, would it have been fatal? Would this have been survivable?
This produced multiple fractures of the face and probably of the skull. Again, it appeared to intersect the shotgun wound that I described just before this, number 1. They're both going and meeting in the same area. One is the left side, the other is the right side. They appear to be meeting, so it's impossible to tell which one caused which fractures. But ordinarily this would be considered a fatal wound causing damage to the skull and face.
Moving now to wound number 3 in your report, could you describe for us where wound number 3 was located?
This one involved the head, the right side of the jaw, and the right clavicle or collarbone. And I've already indicated that it's in proximity to wound number 2, so it's not unequivocal that it's separate. As a matter of fact, it could be related or the same shot as number 2.
All right, so I have here another photograph, which is photograph 86. And I believe when you're talking about the clavicle, do you mean the collarbone right here? Is that
Yes.
correct? All right, photograph 86, I'm going to mark next to the clavicle with a green tag number 3. Now, in addition to the damage to the collarbone, there's damage to the lower jaw in this photograph. Is that damage to the lower right jaw, in your opinion, affiliated with the wound to the collarbone?
It may be if with the tilting of the head to the right, it may be related.
And I'm also going to place a tag number 3 then in the collarbone area of this diagram number 90. Did you see any soot or stippling as to this wound, which we're going to call wound number 3?
No, this is classified as a distance shot, individual pellet defects. So it's classified in the distant range, and there is no soot or smoke or gunpowder associated with these wounds.
How many individual pellet wounds did you note as they pertain to wound number 3?
Approximately 10.
Did you also recover some of the projectiles, some of the little pellets?
Yes.
Do you know about how many you recovered?
No, they were lead pellets, again, similar to those in 2, larger than birdshot, and I took a representative sample and submitted it as evidence.
Now we're going to move to wound number 4. Could you describe for us where wound number 4 was located?
One I called wound number 4 is on the left side of the head and left ear, going to the back of the neck. And on this wound was associated with birdshot. In other words, the tiny pellets that I described for shotgun wound number 1 And this again was a distant shot, multiple individual pellet defects indicating spread. So this is in the distant range, but with the bird shot.
So then you described two birdshot wounds. One was to the left cheek and one was to the left, near the left ear. Is that correct?
Yes.
And here in photograph 85, which already has two dots on it, you can see on the left cheek some blood and also some darkness. Is this the wound that you're talking about, which is wound number 4?
No. Wound number 4 is behind the left ear.
All right. We don't have a photograph of that here. Let me continue on and ask you some more questions. There's damage to the left shoulder shown in this photograph, whose number I've forgotten. In photograph 86, there's damage to the left shoulder. Could you tell me if the damage to the left shoulder was affiliated with this wound, which you're calling number 4, which was behind the left ear? You need a moment to go through your report.
Yes, I do.
While he's doing that, Your Honor, may we approach with the reporter, please?
Yes.
Dr. Golden, the injury to the left shoulder, which is shown in photograph 86, was that affiliated with the injury to the left ear?
It appears entirely consistent with it. It was a distant shot with birdshot pellets recovered, and by appropriate, I guess I could say, manipulation of the left shoulder or tilting of the head, it could be one shotgun blast, not two.
So your testimony then is that the injury to the left ear and the shoulder both contain birdshot, is that correct?
Yes.
And that the injury to the left shoulder is reasonably affiliated with the injury to the ear, is that correct?
Reasonably, or it's consistent.
So that would have been...
They're close to one another, yes.
And that was from a distance as opposed to the contact wound on the left cheek, is that correct?
Yes, this was a distant shot striking two different areas, the left shoulder and the left side of the head.
Do you have an opinion as to wound number 4? In other words, would that have been immediately fatal?
Not ordinarily, no. It did not go into the head. It was basically into the skin and soft tissue, and ordinarily this is not be considered an immediately fatal wound.
And let's continue on now to wound number 5. Could you describe to me where wound number 5 is located?
This, what I call number 5 is on the right upper arm.
In addition, is there another wound to the forearm that you've classified in this group of wounds as number 5?
Yeah, oh, yes, okay. The one I classified number 5 consisted of two groups or clusters, one on the right upper arm front and one on the forearm.
In the photograph, which is photograph 85, then are you talking about the wound to the right forearm and the right, near the right shoulder here?
Yes.
The arm is bent. Now, did you bend this arm for purposes of demonstration in the photograph?
Yes.
Right. Your Honor, I'm going to put a tag number 5 then, right here in the crook of the arm to demonstrate this grouping, and also put it on diagram 90 as well, near the elbow, or the inside of the elbow. So was it your opinion then that these two wounds on these two separate parts of her body are most likely affiliated with one shotgun blast?
Most likely, if the if the arm is bent in the appropriate way, it appears or is entirely consistent with being caused by one shotgun wound.
Now, did you recover or did you notice any pellets as to this particular injury, wound number 5?
I did recover multiple lead pellets and submitted them as evidence. No wadding.
And were the pellets consistent with the bird shot, or were they larger than bird shot?
Well, I described them as pellets, not bird shot, so
So they were of the larger variety, is that correct?
yes, yes, that's correct.
And what was your opinion as to whether or not this wound would have been fatal, wound number 5?
Non-fatal, fracture of the bones of the right arm. It would be considered an incapacitating wound, but not immediately fatal wound.
Now, going on to wound number 6, would you describe for us what wound number 6 is, please?
The shotgun wound of the left side of the chest.
Did you notice individual pellet entry wounds
Yeah.
as to this?
Yes, this is again a so-called distant shot with multiple individual pellet wounds. I counted 16 over the left side of the chest and the left breast region. Again, classified as a distant shotgun wound.
I have here a photograph, Your Honor, photograph 80, which has been marked. I'd like to show it to the witnesses. Does this photograph show the left side of Mrs. Menendez's body before you began your autopsy?
Yes?
And the wound that you've described and what you're calling wound number 6, is that depicted here in this photograph?
Yes?
Okay. To the left breast, there appear to be a number of pellet wounds. In addition, to the left forearm, there appears to be a number of pellet wounds. Is that correct?
Yes?
All right. In your opinion, would the wounds to the left forearm be consistent with the wounds to the left breast, and that it's consistent in terms of one shot?
It's possible, yes.
Placing this on the board, then I'm going to place a sticker again next to this wound, sticker number 6. On the photograph in the crook of the left arm, and also on the diagram exhibit 90, place this next to the left breast as wound 6. Now, I believe you've indicated then that this was a distance wound, is that correct?
Yes?
And one of the reasons is because you can see individual pellet holes, meaning that the shotgun load had already started to spread when it hit the decedent.
Yes?
Okay. Do you have an opinion as to whether or not this particular wound would have been fatal?
Well, in this wound, there was entrance into the rib cage and into the chest, and I did find blood in the chest, and there were individual pellet wounds of the left lung causing bleeding into the chest. So this would be considered a fatal wound because of perforation of the left lung and bleeding into the left side of the chest.
I take it then with this wound number 6, you didn't see any sort of stippling associated with a closer wound, is that correct?
No, it's no sort of sibling. It's a distant range wound.
Your Honor, would this be an appropriate time to break?
All right, we'll take our noon recess. We'll resume at 1:30. Don't discuss this case with anyone. Don't form any final opinions about it. We'll resume at 1:30. And we're ready to resume with the testimony of the witness. Dr. Golden, would you get back on the witness stand, please? Would you state your name again for the record?
Erwin L. Golden.
All right, you may resume your direct examination.
Thank you. May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Dr. Golden, I want to return now to the autopsy that you performed on José Menendez. I'm going to ask you about the wound which we have termed here as wound number 4. I believe the testimony was that wound number 4 is the wound to the left elbow. Do you recall that testimony from this morning, Dr. Golden?
Yes.
Now you have a photograph which is marked as Exhibit 79, And in the photograph, there appears to be a left elbow with some various various defects to it. Is this a photograph of wound number 4 to José Menendez?
Yes.
And in this photograph, there appears to be some sort of metal object which is inserted into one of the holes. Could you tell me what the name of this object is and why it's there?
It's a probe. I guess to show one of the pellet hole defects.
And for the record, I'm going to place a red dot here next to this with number 4 so that it can be lined up with the chart later on. Now, leaving José Menendez and returning to Mrs. Menendez, before lunch you testified about a wound to the left side of her head near the ear, and I believe we called that one wound number 4 as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have here a photograph. It's been marked as Exhibit 91. I'd like to show it to the witnesses at this time, please. Showing this photograph, does this depict what we have called in your testimony wound number 4 to Mary Louise Menendez?
Yes.
And I believe your testimony before lunch was that there are 2 separate defects. That is, there's one to the shoulder and one to the near her ear. And it's your testimony that these are probably affiliated because of the presence of birdshot in both the shoulder wound and also in the area near the ear. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to place this on the board and place a red dot with a number 4 next to this wound too as well. Excuse me, not a red dot, a green dot. In addition, I don't think we've marked the diagram 90 with a green dot for that particular wound, and so this time I'd like to, Your Honor, to indicate that area as well. I have a couple questions to ask you about your testimony this morning before we can proceed. Wound number 2 is the wound to the upper part on the right side of her face, and wound number 3 is to the lower portion of the right side of her face. Referring now to wound number 2, approximately how many individual pellet defects did you see?
Approximately 10.
And as to wound number 3, which is lower near her collarbone, how many individual pellet defects did you see?
Approximately 10.
And as to wound number 6, which I believe is on the left breast area, approximately how many pellet defects did you see?
$16.
I think then we're proceeding on to wound number 7. Could you describe for the jury briefly wound number 7?
Briefly, that's a distant type of shotgun wound with multiple pellet defects on the left side of the left hip or thigh region. That would be the outside of the left hip or thigh region, with approximately 11 individual shotgun pellet wounds.
Now, when you say, could you just stand up and show us on yourself what part of the body this was on?
I guess you'd call it the left hip region.
Okay, about where the bottom of your pocket is on your pants, is that where it's pointing to? All right.
Yes.
And looking at diagram 90 then, where you've just indicated, I'm going to mark a dot for number 7. I'm going to place it here and make sure it's correct. About here, over on the side, is that right?
Yes?
And was the entry then on the side, sort of towards the front? Was that the entry wound on this particular wound number 7?
Well, it's on the what I would call the lateral. That's on the outside or the side of the left thigh.
Now, in addition to wound number 7, then there's wound number 8. Could you tell us about wound number 8?
8 is on the back of the left leg, entering anatomically what I would call the popliteal fossa, which is the space behind the left knee.
Okay, so that word that term you just used, you're talking about in the crook of the knee right here. Is that correct?
Yes?
Okay, and so wound number 8 is from behind on the left leg in the crook of the knee. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so where I put this this green dot right here on diagram 90, is that
Yes, that would be what I would call the popliteal fossa behind the left knee. That's correct.
Now, let's talk about, let's go back to wound number 7. Wound number 7 was individual pellet defects, is that correct?
Yes.
And how many individual pellet defects approximately did you count?
11.
So that would indicate again a shot from a distance, correct?
Yes.
Now, number 8, which is also on the left leg from behind, what kind of wound was that? Was that individual pellets?
Yes.
And approximately how many individual pellet defects did you see to the back of the knee?
9.
Then I believe there's one more injury to the left leg, is that correct? Which is called wound number 9?
Yes.
And I believe in your report you called it something like a gutter or a graze wound. Could you briefly tell us what a gutter or a graze wound is?
Basically, it's a superficial wound that sort of digs out the surface, the skin, and the tissue beneath the skin.
Would a
And
graze,
it would be like a deep graze wound. It goes beneath the skin.
would that be that the load of the shot was passing by and
Yeah.
nicked or
Yes,
impacted
there.
the skin?
Yes, there are no it's one defect, which means that the shot was clustered and caused one defect, as it grazed or the outside of the left lower leg.
Could you tell what direction the shot was traveling when it made wound number 9?
Yes, it appeared to be traveling. Again, I'm going to have to use my terminology. I said front to back, but that would be basically the front of the leg to the back of the leg, which we would say anterior to posterior.
So if I were facing the shot, it would be from the front of me towards the back of me, is that correct?
Yes, in that direction. That's correct.
All right. And could you tell which way was it going, straight or up or down? Could you tell that?
Well, on the leg, it was going. Again, I'd have to, in my terminology, it would be distal to proximal, which means it would be, if the body were standing straight, it would be going upward, towards the head.
So if I were standing up, it would be from the front and going up. Is that correct?
Up, if you're standing up, that's right.
In the photograph which we've discussed previously, Exhibit 80, which already has a dot on it, there appears to be some wounds to the left leg, and I'm going to ask you about it, and I'm going to have you do it so the jury can see. You've just described wound 9, and I'm going to place a green dot on the diagram 90 for wound 9, which I believe is on the calf of the left leg, in the calf area. Is that correct?
Yes?
And in this photograph 80, which we've already spoken about, we've got the arm and wound number 6. And then you can see in this particular photograph, on the calf, there appears to be this wound here, which you've described. And is that wound number 9, Doctor?
Yes?
Okay, Your Honor, for the record, I'm going to place a 9 next to that. Now, in addition to wound number 9, there appears to be 2 other things on this photograph on the left leg that you can see from the photograph. One is it looks like wounds to the top of the left thigh above the knee. Do you see that right there?
Yes.
Is that affiliated with the wound to the back of the leg, left leg, number 8?
No.
Okay, what is this wound here?
It appears to be number 7, what we call number 7, on the outside of the,
All right, so this is number 7, is that correct?
yes, I believe, yes.
All right, I'm going to put a 7 next to that wound. All right, and that's the one you described as being near the hip, and you showed us by standing up, is that correct?
Yes.
In addition, where it appears that the knee is, you can see a little outcropping here, which is difficult to see in this photograph. Is that affiliated with the wound then to the back of the knee?
I'm not sure.
All right, well.
The one I call number 8 enters behind
right,
the knee.
Did number 8 come out anywhere?
Yes, there were 2 defects of exit associated with number 8. They were on the front of the left leg, just above, and I described them just above the one just below the knee, one just above the knee. 2 small wounds which probed and appeared to be exit wounds from shotgun wound number 8.
So then your testimony is that 7, 8, and 9 then are all wounds to the left leg, is that correct?
Yes?
The last wound that we're going to talk about then is wound number 10. Would you please refer to that in your report?
Yes.
We have here a photograph, Exhibit 81. Dr. Golden, this photograph 81, does that depict what you're about to talk about wound number 10?
Yes.
And would you describe for us what is depicted in this photograph and what this wound number 10 is?
Excuse me, Your Honor, before that happens, can you approach briefly?
Yes.
All right, we'll resume.
Thank you. Dr. Goldman, the last wound area that we're going to talk about, I think, to Mrs. Menendez, is this photograph, which I forgot what number it is. It's 81. This is wound number 10, correct?
Yes?
Now, I'm going to place a green 10 tag next to it. What hand was this?
That's the right hand.
So, and were you able to determine where the entry was and the exit wounds on this particular hand?
Well, yeah, yes, the individual pellet defects are seen on the at the base of the right thumb and also on just below the right index finger. In other words, on the I guess you'd say I don't know if that would be the outside or the inside of the hand. I would call it the radial aspect of the hand.
What
But-
does radial mean in your...
Where, well, in our case, it'd be where the thumb is.
All right, so in this photograph, which appears to show sort of the top and side of her right hand and thumb, the entry wounds would have been in this area that's depicted in the photograph?
Yes.
And where were the exit wounds?
There was one large exit laceration that was on the palm. There was an exit laceration on the opposite side of the hand where the fifth finger is. You can't see it. You can't see it in that.
So was the exit laceration on the inside of the hand?
Yes.
Okay, where the palm is
Yeah.
that correct?
Mhm.
All right, now, is this a defensive wound? Or can you say that?
No, unless it can be shown how the hand would be placed in the proper position.
All right, let me ask you this. How many individual pellet defects did you see in terms of entry wounds to the hand?
To the hand,
Yes.
I numbered 6 individual pellet wounds, and the thumb was fractured, so it was. In our terminology, the skin was torn off. It was a vulse, but I counted 6 individual defects. So that would, again, that would make it a distant type of shot to the hand.
Were there any pellets recovered from the hand?
No.
Did the pellet, would this be what you call a through-and-through wound?
Yes.
Your Honor, for the record, I'm going to place a 10 here on Exhibit 90 on the back view of the person on the right hand. For the record. And may I have a moment to count up, make sure I have them all covered?
Yes.
Now, the wound number 10 to the right hand, that wouldn't have been fatal, would it?
No.
And how about the wounds that we've discussed since lunch, wounds number 7, 8, and 9, the wounds to the left leg? Would those have been fatal?
Each individually?
Yes.
No.
Together, just the three together, would those have been fatal?
Maybe, not immediately fatal, but would have to be treated. There'd be a lot of bleeding.
Would they be incapacitating to the victim?
Yes, I believe I described several fractures of the leg, including the femur or thigh bone on one of these wounds. Also the fracture of the thumb on the right hand.
Now, as to Mary Louise Menendez, did you determine what the cause of death was?
Yes.
And what was the cause of death?
Multiple shotgun wounds.
And what was the mode of death?
Homicide.
As to Mrs. Menendez, did you have any toxicology tests done to determine the presence or absence of alcohol or other narcotics or drugs?
Yes.
And were any of those things detected?
No.
One other thing. You described the wounds to both Mr. and Mrs. Menendez, and would you be able to tell, let's start with Mr. Menendez, were all of the wounds inflicted before death or at death?
That's a compound question.
Okay, were all the wounds inflicted before death?
They appear to be so, yes.
Now, is there a medical term that you use to describe wounds which are inflicted before death?
Yes.
What is it?
Antemortem means before death.
And post-mortem is after death, is that correct?
Yes.
And then there's the term peri-mortem. What does that mean?
That, by definition, would be at or around the time of death.
Now, how is it that you are able to determine that wounds occur before death, that is ante-mortem?
A wound inflicted before death will show bruising, redness caused by bleeding into the tissue.
When you conducted this autopsy, did you look along the paths of the wounds to see if there was bleeding along the paths of the wounds?
Yes.
What does bleeding indicate if you see it along the paths of the wounds?
Well, the bleeding or bruising would be associated with a wound inflicted before death. A wound inflicted after death ordinarily would not be expected to cause bruising or bleeding into the tissues.
Do you consider bruising and bleeding to be the same sort of phenomena in terms of...
Not necessarily, no. A wound can bleed after death, but that means blood is just oozing out through a defect. That can happen. That often happens. I'm talking about a vital reaction indicating that there was life or blood pressure before the wound was inflicted.
Now, as to Mr. Menendez, did you determine that all of the wounds were before death?
Yes, I believe I've stated that.
And as to Mrs. Menendez, did you make that same determination?
Yes, nothing appeared characteristically a post-mortem wound, meaning a wound inflicted after death. They all appear to be associated with bruising or a vital reaction, yes.
I have no further questions of this witness at this time.
And who is going to cross-examine first?
I am, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Burt. Yes, you may.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bolton.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I think you said that both these autopsies were performed on the 23rd of August. Is that right?
Yes.
And where were the bodies between the time the police discovered them, which the jury has heard is on August 20th, and the 23rd when you performed your autopsies?
They should have been in the coroner's office.
And is it true from your answer that the first time you saw the bodies was when you actually performed the autopsies themselves?
Yes.
Do you have someone in your office who actually responds to the scene where bodies are found to make certain observations as to the condition of the bodies at the place where they're located?
Yes.
And in fact, was an investigator from your office sent out to the scene where these bodies were found?
Yes.
Did that person make a report which you have seen in the course of performing your analysis of these bodies?
Yes.
Could you tell us who the person was who was sent to the scene where these bodies were found?
Yes. It was Mr. George White.
And what time, according to the report which you read, did Mr. White arrive at the scene where these bodies were found?
Well, I'm reading the report. The call was received at the coroner's office on 8/21/89, 03:57 hours. Mr. White does not indicate when he arrived. At least he doesn't indicate in this report right now that I'm looking at. I can tell you about his measurements.
Well, let me ask you another question to see if we can pinpoint it a little bit. One of the things you said this morning was that one of the reasons you could not determine the time of death was because someone in your office did not take certain measurements in a timely manner. Is that a fair summary of what you were trying to say this morning?
Yes.
And is one of the things that Mr. White was supposed to have done when he arrived at the scene of these bodies was to take the temperature of the air, the ambient condition of the air at that point?
Yes.
And is it also standard procedure for him to take the temperature of the body?
Yes.
And how is that normally done?
It's done through a liver thermometer.
And that's normally done right there at the scene where the body is discovered before the body's transported to your office, right?
Yes.
Now, did he do that in this case?
Yes.
And can you tell me what measurements he made and when he made them?
Yes. Air temperature was 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and that was 05:35. That's 5:35 in the morning, 8/21/89. Then the liver temperature was taken 05:44 hours, 8/21/89.
Now, we're talking about José Menendez, correct?
Yes.
And did he also take separate measurements for Mary Louise Menendez?
Yes.
And what were the measurements?
The air temperature was 68 degrees, time 0600 hours, 8/21/89. The liver temperature 91 degrees, 0608 hours, 8/21/89.
All right, so tell us how you as a coroner can use those measurements to determine time of death.
Again, it wouldn't be time, it would be a range approximation. As a coroner, I would assume the body temperature started at, let's say, 98.6 or 99 degrees, and then the fall of the...
That's prior to death, right?
Prior to death, yeah.
Okay.
And that again, is not certain either. It could be 100, that's unknown to me.
We're talking averages.
Yes.
Okay.
Normal average temperature, could be 98 also. And then I would calculate on each individual the fall or drop in body temperature. So in the case of Mr. Menendez, it would be from, let's say, 99 to 90 degrees, a fall of 9 degrees. And then I would have to assume the rate of drop, which again is not uniform. That's why these measurements aren't precise. So,
And what would you assume the rate of drop to be?
well, it could be 1.5 degrees per hour.
That again is just an average.
That's right. It is an average. That's correct.
And so how do you use that average and extrapolate back to come up with an estimation of time of death?
Well, I would divide the number of degrees of drop, which in this case was 9 degrees by 1.5. You can do it divide by 1 and get 9, divide by 2, be about 4.5. So if you would calculate that, that would be 6 hours, which would be impossible because the body was found at 2350 on 820, and that's more than 6 hours according to the calculation. If you went back from 5:35 and go back 6 hours, it could possibly be around that time.
And how is it that the delay in taking those measurements caused your estimates to be even more inaccurate?
Well, the closer you are to the time of death, the more accurate the measurements would be.
And I think you mentioned other ways in which you can determine time of death, and one of the things you mentioned was rigor, R-I-G-O-R mortis, correct?
Yes.
Tell the juries how you use that phenomenon to measure time of death.
Again, it's an estimate, and it is not precise. Rigor mortis, the stiffening of the muscles after death, begins several hours after death, beginning in the muscles of the jaw and then proceeding down to the limbs, lower and lower extremities. Usually, it's said to be complete. In other words, fully established somewhere between 10 and 12 hours after death.
10 or 12 hours after death is well established.
That's the usual figure, but it can be shorter after vigorous activity. It can be longer. It depends on a variety of factors.
And in fact, in this case, your deputy noticed when he was there and noted in his report that both bodies had well-established rigor mortis, correct?
Yes.
So if you extrapolate back 10 hours from the time that he made that observation, that couldn't possibly be right, could it?
Doesn't appear so. It does not follow the liver temperature measurements.
Is it fair to say that within your field of forensic pathology that estimating time of death is one of the most uncertain things that you do?
It is very uncertain, yes.
And in this particular case, you couldn't venture any opinion to these juries with any reasonable degree of medical certainty as to what the time of death was. Isn't that true?
Yeah, yes, just from the measurements on the body, no, I could not.
And you have no other way of doing it, correct?
All I can say is sometime before the body was found, 2350 hours on 8/20/89. That I guess I can be reasonably sure.
All right. That kind of goes outside the area of your expertise and depends more on logic than anything else, right?
Yes.
We don't need a forensic pathologist to make those deductions, do we?
Probably not.
All right. Now, could I approach a witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
The autopsies which you performed, I think you performed the autopsy on José Menendez first.
Yes.
And tell the juries how you go about performing the autopsy. Everybody's got an idea from television how that's done, but why don't you tell us just in general how you go about performing the autopsy? Is there a microphone that you're dictating into?
No, we don't. At the LA Coroner's Office, we don't use a microphone. It's a very busy place. We make the diagrams as we are performing the autopsy, diagrams and notes, and then dictate the report the same day shortly thereafter.
So in other words, right at the autopsy table, you have blank diagrams, and as you're performing the autopsy, you're kind of scribbling down in doctor's handwriting what you're observing. Is that fair to say?
I guess if you want to characterize it as scribbling,
Well, showing you what's been marked as exhibits. First of all, exhibit 87. Is that the packet of diagrams which was produced as a result of your autopsy of José Menendez?
yes,
And basically, does this packet of diagrams show each wound which you've described for the jury, along with what I would characterize as scribbling, but I'm sure you could read that for us, right?
I could read most of it, yes.
Okay, most of it. And how about 88? Is that the packet of documents that represent the diagrams you made with reference to the Mary Louise Menendez autopsy?
Yes,
Okay. And after you take down those notes, you then, at some later point, go back and dictate a formal report, which is a more elaborate recordation of what you observed and the conclusions that you reach. Is that correct?
yes,
And the last item in the report is usually your opinion as to the cause of death, correct?
yes.
And the manner of death.
Well, the opinion gives a summary of the basic findings. The death certificate gives the cause and manner. It's required by state law to issue the death certificate and to give a medical opinion, which is not legally binding, of the mode of death.
The means and the mode are the same thing. It's just a different way of saying the same thing.
The mode or manner, it would be the same thing. That's right.
And in this case, the cause of both deaths, of both of these decedents, was multiple gunshot wounds, correct?
Shotgun, yes,
And the means, or the mode of death, you said was homicide, correct?
yes,
Now, does that mean that you're simply making a determination as to mode that it's death at the hands of another?
yes,
It's not a legal opinion on your part that it's murder or some lesser degree of homicide. You're simply saying by that opinion, as you're legally required to do, that it appears to you that it's death at the hands of another.
that's absolutely correct.
In other words, that it's not suicidal
Yes,
and it's not accidental.
yes,
Whether it's a justifiable homicide or not is for the jury. It's not for the coroner's office in the course of your duties, correct?
yes,
And that's what you meant when you referred to homicide.
yes.
All right. Now, in reference to the José Menendez autopsy, I'd like to direct your attention to a few of the specific wounds that you talked about. And the first one we're going to talk about is the what you've designated as wound number 1. Actually, in your report, the first wound you described is the abrasion on the right thigh area, correct?
Yes,
And just looking at the diagram that's been placed on the board, that would be a red mark that is on the right thigh that doesn't have a number on it.
yes,
We described that as a recent abrasion, correct?
yes,
And you didn't mean to imply by describing it as a recent abrasion that that abrasion was necessarily associated with the same time that the shotgun wounds were inflicted, correct?
not necessarily. It's just consistent with, as I think I described earlier, with marks you very often see with shotgun wounds, but no, not necessarily.
And it could be equally consistent with an abrasion which the decedent may have suffered sometime earlier, which may have been inflicted at a time when the shotgun wounds were not inflicted, right?
It's possible, yes.
He could have been out playing tennis and scraped himself or whatever. It wasn't necessarily, in your mind, associated with the same time that the shotgun wounds were inflicted.
Again, I'll say it's consistent with the marks you frequently see on distant type of shotgun wounds, the wad marks, but there's no way I can say 100% that it's a wad mark. from the shotgun wadding, but the distant shotgun wounds, as most of these are in this case, are associated with these round, or what I call annular abrasions.
Okay, let's take a short break, and we'll resume at 1:45. Don't discuss the case with anyone, ladies and gentlemen. Don't form many final opinions about it, and we'll resume at 2:45. While the defendants are in court with their attorneys, people are represented, and we'll have the jury come out. Any matters that counsel wish to discuss before we're ready to proceed?
Just one issue, Your Honor. There was a blow-up of a photograph. It had previously been marked by the people as Exhibit 7. We had objected to that photograph going into evidence. The court overruled the objection, and the people have had marked as, I believe, 7A and 7B, smaller enlargements of that same photograph, so that we had two for each jury. I just wanted the record to reflect that those photographs were offered by the people, not by the defense.
What is it the people want to do? Substitute the smaller photographs for the larger one, or?
No, Your Honor, what happened is the court wanted two copies. I couldn't get the same size of 7. All I could get were 8 by 10. So Mr. Burt wants to use number 7 for the jury, so I gave him the 2 8 by 10s, which had not been marked prior to today. So 7 is the photograph we discussed with one of the first witnesses, and the two smaller ones are 2 copies for each jury.
All right. You parties may do what they want with those photographs. You want to use the smaller ones or the one larger one, as you see fit. All right, we ready to proceed otherwise?
Yes.
Okay, let's get the jurors in. And all the jurors are back for both defendants, and we're ready to resume. Dr. Golden, would you get on the witness stand again, please? All right, Mr. Burt.
Dr. Golden, before the break, we were talking about whether the thigh wound to José Menendez on his right thigh may have been pre-existing, that is, existing before the time when the shotgun wounds were inflicted. And I asked you a question about that, and I think you indicated that the wounds were consistent with perhaps the wadding of a shotgun charge striking the thigh area. Is that correct?
Yes.
And isn't it true that it's also consistent with the abrasion being pre-existing?
That's possible, too.
All right. Now, that was the first wound you described in your autopsy protocol, and the second wound I think you described as the contact wound to the head. Is that right?
Yes, that was the first shot. That was the first shotgun wound, yes.
And on the diagram, which is behind you there, the dot, which is depicted as number 1, shows that, at least according to the dot, the wound was inflicted on the right side of the skull. Is that accurate, according to your autopsy?
No, she put it next to the head, but it's actually on the back of the head.
And I wonder if you could yourself put it where it would accurately reflect where the wound was located on the back.
Just on the back of the head, below the crown.
So, here, more to the left.
May I see where your hand is? Right in the middle.
Do it, then there won't be any dispute as to where. Okay. Thank you. For the record, we'll move the dot on the diagram for the Lyle Menendez jury in the center. And could you tell from your examination the direction of that shot?
The direction is from the back of the head forward, in other words, back to front.
Back to front, and I think you said that there was an exit wound, which was actually on the right side of the face. Is that right?
Yes.
And there were 2 exit wounds, were there not?
Yes.
There was an exit wound which came through the ear,
Yes.
and the other one was on the right temple, correct?
Yes.
And was the trajectory of this wound from left to right, or was it straight ahead?
It'd be hard to tell, but going out on the right side just indicates ricochet from the main mass of pellets. That does not indicate trajectory. There's going to be ricochet inside the skull, so that doesn't indicate the trajectory.
Is there anything that you can tell from your examination where the gun was positioned in relation to the wound, in the sense of whether it was straight ahead or slanted to the left or slanted to the right?
Not from my examination, no.
And was there anything in your examination from which you could tell where the shooter was in relation to the head wound? In other words, was the shooter or shooters off to the left, directly behind the person, or to the right?
No, I can't tell that. I can only tell you the approximate location of the muzzle of the gun, and that it was a contact. I can't say anything about the shooter.
And would one of the reasons why you can't say anything about the shooter be because perhaps the parties were moving at the time that that particular wound was inflicted?
That, and I don't know which way the head was turned, and I don't know how the weapon was held, so there are a lot of variables. The position of the shooter is not known to me. There are too many variables. Each body can move in different ways, and I don't even know how the weapon was held.
All right, and I have two photographs that I'll mark defendants next in order, one for each jury.
Exhibit 92.
Another photograph which I'll have marked in duplicate is 93.
Can you describe these photographs? 92?
Yes,
What-
92 is a crime scene photograph depicting the back of the couch area where José Menendez is seated on the couch. And 93 is a photograph of the wound to José Menendez going through the left thigh, and the photograph depicts him seated on the couch. Could I approach your witness again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Doctor, let me show you that in close-up, and then I'll put it up on the board.
Yes?
Right. Do you recognize that photograph as depicting José Menendez seated on the couch at the location where the body was recovered?
Not by direct recall, but I was not present at the scene, if that's what you meant.
Can you take my word for it for now that that's what it represents? And we'll
Yes.
later establish. I think there'd be a stipulation that's what it represents. Is that correct, counsel?
Is that what you want me to stipulate?
Yes.
That is a photograph from the crime scene, I so stipulate.
Thank you. And doctor, directing your attention to that photograph, you see behind the body as it's seated there on the couch is an area, a narrow area, and next to the area is what looks to be two doors. Do you see that?
Yes?
And nothing in your examination can tell us whether the shooter was standing in the area directly behind where the body is depicted in that photograph, correct?
From my examination?
Yeah.
No.
And as I think you said, one of the reasons why you can't determine that is because José Menendez may have had his head turned at the time that wound was inflicted, correct?
Yes?
And depending upon where his head was, that would be one factor in determining where he was in relation to the shooter, correct?
Yes?
So you just don't know from your examination where the two parties were standing, or three parties were standing, or more parties were standing at the time that wound was inflicted. Is that correct?
Yes?
Now, I think you also testified that that wound, that is the wound to the head, was the only contact wound of the 5 shotgun wounds that you described in relation to José Menendez.
Yes?
And I think you also testified that with respect to Mary Louise Menendez, there was also only one contact wound, and that contact wound was to the left cheek area. Is that correct?
Yes?
And all the other wounds you described were non-contact wounds. Is that right?
Yes?
And I think you classified in terms of the way you describe wounds as contact wounds, close wounds, and distant wounds, correct?
Yes?
And all the other wounds, except for the 2 that we just talked about, were distant wounds, correct?
Yes?
And I think you indicated that you couldn't pinpoint for the juries exactly what that meant in terms of how far the muzzle of the gun was from the target at the time the shots were inflicted, correct?
That's absolutely right.
You can give us a range or an average or an estimate, but it's only that. It's just an average.
That's correct.
And I think you said that a distant shot starts to be defined as 5 or 6 feet or more away from the target.
That's correct. Ordinarily, and I indicated also, shorter barrel, sawed-off shotgun, a distant shot would be closer than that. Full choke, it could be 18 feet, but
Closer in the sense that a sawed-off shotgun will cause a distant shot at a closer
yes,
range.
that's correct.
Correct.
The spread starts sooner, maybe 3 feet.
Right. The firearms examiner in this case testified, I believe, that the barrel of the gun that he examined was 18.5 inches in length. So that's not a sawed-off shotgun, right?
That's getting close. Under 20, under 20 maybe. Again, I'm not a firearms examiner, so I wouldn't know exactly.
And when you say you wouldn't know exactly, what you mean by that is in order to determine exactly what the range would be for a distant shot, you'd have to fire the same weapon using the same ammunition.
Absolutely.
Now, as you step back, that is, as a shooter steps back from his target, beyond that 5 or 6 feet range, will the distant shot look exactly the same? In other words, will you see the same sort of characteristics for the wound?
No, the pattern starts spreading out. If you think of it as a circle of spread, the diameter of the circle will start increasing.
The further you go back, the more
further-
spread you're going to get.
That's correct.
And what in your examination tips you off that it's a distant shot is this satellite effect that you testified about, correct? That is,
Yes.
the shots appear to be spreading.
In other words, there's not one central or major hole. There's just a series of individual small holes.
And you also look to see if there's any gunpowder or gases sprayed onto the wound.
That's correct.
That will tell you whether it's a close-in shot.
That's a closer range, yes. A shotgun wound at closer range would be expected to leave smoke or powder on the target. That's correct.
And you saw none of that with reference to any of the wounds except for the 2 contact wounds, which we have talked about earlier, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now, one of the wounds you described was the thigh wound to José Menendez, correct?
Yes.
And that's wound number 5.
Yes.
And I think you said as to that particular wound that you recovered no pellets inside the wound, correct?
Yes.
And I think you also testified that the direction of the wound was from the inner part of the thigh to the outer part of the thigh. Is that also correct?
Yes.
And again, may I approach a witness, Sean?
You may.
Showing you photograph number 93. Could you just take a look at that photograph? And I think it would again be stipulated this is a photograph taken at the scene where the bodies were recovered. Correct, counsel?
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
Stipulate to the photograph that it's an accurate
Yes.
depiction of
The crime scene,
the body at the place where it was located.
yes.
Yes.
I would stipulate it was located by the police.
And doctor, if you would, could you step down and just draw for the jury with a pen, which I'll give to you, the direction that that wound to the left thigh would have been going in based on your examination? Yes. Okay, thank you. And since there were no pellets inside the wound, you
Mr.
could-
Burt, you would like him to mark the other photograph as well, so that we
Yes,
have the same
let me give
marking?
you that. Handing you the other photograph, if you could just also draw that same arrow.
And that exhibit number was what? That was
Counsel,
93?
93, I believe. Right. Doctor, with reference to this wound, your arrow indicates that the wound comes in on the inside of the thigh and goes out in the direction indicated by the arrow, correct?
Yes.
Now, as the pellets enter that wound, and you don't find any pellets in the wound, what happens to the pellets when it comes out the other side of the wound?
I'm not exactly sure what you mean by what happens to...
Well, what direction, since there are no wounds in the pellet,
Yeah, the leg is
no
actually...
pellets in the wound, what happens
Yes.
to the pellets?
They go out in the direction of the arrow.
And is there also material, blood, and body particles that are blown out in the same direction?
Yes, it's very possible.
And do you see on this side of the couch any indication that there's blood or body particles?
Well, I don't see any. I don't see anything to my unaided eye examination. No.
What does that suggest to you as a forensic pathologist as to whether José Menendez was seated at the time that that wound was inflicted?
Well, the way that picture shows, the exit wound is in front. Am I incorrect? The exit wound appears to be in front of that couch and not right next to it. I'm not sure whether it's the exit wound is so far in front of the I don't have a good depth perception. That wound on the left side of the thigh, in the picture would be on the right, but on the outer side of his left thigh may be so far in front of the couch that it just missed it.
And where would it go if your perception of that?
It would go towards, on the photo, it would go towards the right, to the floor or something like in that direction.
All right. I have another photograph I'd like to mark.
All right, you don't have to approach the clerk at this point. Just put marks on the back of them with a pen so that we know what they are.
This would be
94. All right, these are photographs of what?
I will stipulate that these are crime scene photographs, and I believe.
All right, I just want Mr. Burt to describe it for the record. What is it?
This is another angle on the same area depicted in 92.
The sofa area?
Yes.
All right.
Doctor, showing you first so you can take a look at it, 92. Does that help you any on the perspective?
This is 94.
94.
Yes?
And now let me put that up if I could. What does that tell you in respect to where the leg was situated near the couch?
Well, it was exactly there at the time the wound was inflicted. I mean, in that location, there may have, you might expect some blood soiling on the material, if that's exactly where it was at the time.
And
Because it appears to be very close to the wound.
in other words, you would expect, given the direction of that wound, that if he were seated there at the time the wound was inflicted, you would see some blood soiling in the area of the couch to the left of the body.
Very likely, yes, that's correct.
Okay. And I think you also described that you had certain wounds to the back of José Menendez's arms, correct?
Yes?
And where were those wounds located?
Well, one was on the left elbow. That was the one we called number 4. And on the back of the right forearm, that was another entrance wound. That was number 3.
And showing you what's been marked as 7B.
For the record, what photograph is that, please?
7B is a photograph that I believe is in evidence.
Oh, okay, all right.
You see in this photograph, Doctor, that José Menendez is seated on the couch with both of his arms up against the back of the couch, correct?
Yes.
And is there any way that the shotgun wounds that you saw that were inflicted on the back of his elbow, the left elbow, and the shot to the back of the right arm, could those have been inflicted while he was seated in the position which he's shown in that photograph?
Not on the back of the left elbow. It would have to go through the, if it was, that's the exact position, it would have to obviously go through the I guess you'd call that the arm. It would have to go through the couch. And on the back of the right forearm, if the back of the right forearm were on the seat of the couch, there's no way it could go through. The arms would have to be removed from the couch in order for those wounds to be inflicted.
In other words, the only way it could happen is if someone shot through the back of the couch into the arm as they rested in the position they're depicted there.
Yes?
The other possibility is that he's up and moving and has his arms in such a position that the shots are inflicted while he's moving and standing up.
That, or if just the arms are elevated while he's sitting, as long as there's no couch in the way, yes.
And the fact that those wounds to the back of the left and the right arm are in the back, that does not in any way suggest to you that the shooter is necessarily standing behind José Menendez when those wounds are inflicted, correct?
That's correct. That's why I say posterior and anterior instead of back or front. That's correct.
Because he could be moving his arms in such a way, if he had them up, for instance.
In other words, I can be facing you and I can put the back of my hand or arm facing you.
All right. And with respect to Mary Louise Menendez, you also have wounds to the back of her leg, is that right?
Yes?
And again, those wounds could not have been inflicted if she was in the position she's depicted in that photograph, correct?
It appears that the back of her body, including her leg, is against the couch. Is that the correct assumption? It's lying against the couch.
So that it appears from the photograph, but you
Well,
tell me.
then there's no way the wounds could go through to the leg and not hit the couch. So it appears to be impossible. And there's no indication from my exam that any of the wounds went through the couch.
So again, there must have been some relative movement by her at some point when those wounds were inflicted, correct?
Yes, or that she was not near, that was not the position, her final position was not where the wounds were inflicted.
Now, I think you described all of the wounds as being anti-mortem, correct?
As best as I can tell with normal pathological examination, all appear to have bruising or vital reaction, yes.
And I wonder if you could explain for us a little bit more. You were discussing earlier that bodies after they're dead can bleed, but that's not what you're talking about, is it?
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Tell the juries the difference between what is seen in photographs in this case where blood is coming out of wounds, and the kind of hemorrhaging that you're talking about, which allows you to determine that wounds are either inflicted before or after death.
Well, it's basically what I'm talking about is the bruising caused by a wound on a living body. If a living person, you or I or anyone, causes an injury, whether it's a cut or a bruise or a scrape, the tissue turns red because of the bleeding into the injured area, whether it's capillary or a small blood vessel. And that's the vital reaction. On a dead body, that will not occur. If you scratch a dead body, it won't turn red. It'll be a yellow color. If you strike a dead body, what would ordinarily cause a bruise or a welt, that bruise or welt will not happen. So we're talking about a vital reaction on a living body.
And this vital reaction you're talking about happened up to the point in time when the heart stops pumping blood.
Yes.
And that's what you mean by anti-mortem.
That's right.
That is that there's some blood pressure at the point in time when the wound is inflicted.
That's correct.
And I think you said that all the wounds in this case, anti-mortem, and in particular the wound to José Menendez's head, you described as instantaneously fatal?
Oh, no, I think I modified that and said I couldn't give an exact time. I said it would appear to be a rapidly fatal wound from all the injury, but I went into some description that a forensic pathologist can't give the exact time of death or duration of survival.
Now, how did you describe the wound in your autopsy report? I don't mean the entire wound, but as to whether it was rapidly fatal or not.
I said in the report, I said immediately fatal.
You said immediately fatal.
Yes.
And by fatal, you mean that the heart would stop pumping blood
Or
very rapidly.
Yes.
Now, was there anything in your examination which allows you to tell the juries anything about the sequence of the shots? That is, which wound was inflicted first, or who got shot first, as between Mary Louise Menendez and José Menendez?
No.
One of the things your examination did indicate was that this head wound was, as you described it, immediately fatal, correct?
Well, upon further reflection, I think I testified earlier that I would say rapidly fatal.
All right. And if it was immediately fatal, and that head wound was the first wound inflicted, would that mean, according to what you've told the jury so far, that the rest of the wounds inflicted on José Menendez would have been post-mortem wounds?
Post or immediately post-mortem, if there was a rapid sequence.
So, in other words, if the sequence of the shots was the head wound first, and the person died immediately as a result of that head wound,
Yes.
and then started shooting the body in other areas, then those wounds you would see at the autopsy as being post-mortem wounds, right?
If the heart stopped immediately, if there was no blood pressure, very likely the other wounds in the sequence would look somewhat different. There wouldn't be as much hemorrhage, or as we would say, bruising or vital reaction in those wounds. That's correct.
And you're saying that those wounds, in this case, based on your examination, those wounds were anti-mortem wounds. That is, the wounds other than the head wound.
Yes, yes. Everyone had the vital reaction, the bleeding along the wound path, the bruising. That's correct.
Which means that one consistent interpretation based on your examination is that all of the wounds except the head wounds were inflicted, and then the head wound was inflicted last. Certainly consistent.
That is very consistent interpretation. Yes.
And if it had been the other way around, that is, if the head wound had been inflicted first, and he had died immediately, then that would not be consistent with your examination, because those other wounds we know were not post-mortem, correct?
That's correct.
And when you say you're modifying somewhat your interpretation of whether the head wound was immediate, I think you explained that that is based on reports in the literature that you have read, indicating that sometimes people with serious wounds survive for some length of time, right?
That's correct.
But in this particular case, you have no evidence to suggest to you that that happened, correct?
That's correct.
And it could very well be that that wound to the head was immediately fatal, in the sense that most people think of immediate, that is instantaneous.
Yes.
Doctor, if we could just for a minute turn to the Mary Louise autopsy. And I think you said that your examination revealed ten separate locations of injury. Is that correct?
Yes.
And are we clear at this point that the 10 separate locations of injury in no way means that that's the number of shots that were fired?
That's correct. In fact, I think that some on the face may be either one shot or possibly one on the face, particularly the right side, may have passed through the hand. So that's correct. I can't give an unequivocal number based on that. I give the maximum number that I've identified, if everyone is an individual shot.
And is one of the reasons why some of those shots could be coming from, some of those wounds could be coming from the same shot because of the nature of a shotgun? That is, it's a scatter gun.
Yes. Very especially in the distant shots where there's a scattering of pellets. That's correct. More than one part of the body may be struck. Very often that happens.
And so the number of wounds in this case, with respect to Mary Menendez, does not tell a jury how many shots were fired necessarily, does it?
Not necessarily, no.
And the same thing with respect to José Menendez, correct?
That's correct. In fact, I think the one on the on José Menendez, the one on the chest, I had an individual wound, most likely is related to the group on the right arm, because it would be unlikely just to have a once isolated, let's say, flyer on the right side of the chest, and with the arm most likely being against the side is most likely all one shotgun wound.
And it's also true, is it not, that some of the wounds could have inflicted injuries on both José and Mary Louise? That is, they could have passed through one person and into the other.
That is possible under the appropriate positions and circumstances of the two victims. Yes.
And how does that happen? If you could explain that just a little bit.
Well, in the same way that a shotgun wound can pass through two parts of the same body, a cluster of shotgun pellets can pass to parts of different bodies if they're close enough. In other words, a volley of shot can go through, let's say, a thin portion of a person's body, let's say a limb or a hand, and then continue on and strike another person.
And it's also true, is it not, that with shotguns, and especially with distant shots, that as the shotgun pellets scatter out, that some of the pellets may hit one target and some from the same shot may hit another.
That is true under the appropriate circumstance. That's correct.
And in this case, in fact, your examination revealed that most of the wounds, with the exception of two, which I'll get to in a moment, were buckshot wounds, correct?
Two definitely were the birdshot, the tiny ones. The others, I didn't characterize what size shot they were, not being a firearms examiner. I just called them shotgun pellets. I'm not qualified to tell you what size shot they are. That's not my field.
But basically, your examination
Difference.
revealed two types of ammunition, correct?
That's correct.
Birdshot and something larger, which through other evidence may be established to be buckshot, right?
Yes.
And is it also true that as to some of the wounds, especially the ones that you characterize as distant wounds, that the number of pellets you recovered was less than the number which would normally be in a loaded buckshot?
Objection vague.
Sustained.
With respect to José Menendez, the number 4 wound, which you've described in your autopsy as a wound to the left elbow,
Yes.
you discovered 9 wound defects with relation to that wound, correct?
Yes.
And yet you only recovered 5 pellets.
That's correct.
And it's possible that 4 of those pellets passed through that left arm, continued on into her, correct?
It's possible.
And you also have wounds with respect to Mary Louise Menendez, where you have the number of pellet defects does not match up with the number of pellets you recovered, correct?
Yes. In many of these, there were so many. I took fewer pellets were recovered than actual individual wounds on the skin. That's correct. So some were left, some were either left in the body or some may have passed through.
Passed through to the other person.
Possibly to the other person, yes.
And again, we don't know the sequence as to who was shot first. It could have passed from José Menendez into Mary, or it could have passed from Mary into José Menendez, correct? That's
right. The sequence of shots fired is not known to me.
Now, what is known to you is that 2 types of ammunition were present. Does that mean that 2 guns were necessarily used?
No, it just means 2 different types of cartridges. I have no knowledge about how many weapons were used. That just means 2 different cartridge loadings.
In other words, you can take a load of birdshot and chamber it into a shotgun and also chamber a load of buckshot right behind that and shoot it from the same gun, and you're going to have 2 different types of ammunition in the wound, correct?
That's correct.
Could I have 1 minute, Your Honor?
Yes.
Throughout your testimony, you referred to incapacitation, and you referred to incapacitation, for instance, with reference to the thumb wound to Mary Louise Menendez. What does that term mean in reference to a thumb wound? Incapacitation.
Inability to operate or move the thumb or use the thumb.
And when you were using that term earlier, was it in reference to the wound you were describing? That is, if it's a broken arm, then the person is incapacitated in the sense that they cannot use the arm.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that they're down and out or unconscious or anything like that, does it?
No, I make no implication about, as you said, down and out or unconscious, no.
Except with reference to the head wound.
Yes.
That certainly is a wound that would have rendered anyone unconscious, correct?
Correct.
And I think with reference to Mary Menendez, you described the wounds, all those wounds, as ante-mortem also, correct?
Yes.
And does that suggest to you that the wounds in reference to her must have been inflicted in very rapid succession?
Yes.
Could you explain to the jury why you reached that conclusion?
Well, the exact time is not known to me, but the longer the duration, in shotgun wounds, especially if they're severe or rapidly fatal wounds, if you wait long enough, then some of the wounds will become post-mortem. So in a sequence such as this, with multiple shotgun wounds, the assumption is that it's a fairly rapid sequence until the actual fatal wound is inflicted.
And would your opinion be the same with reference to José Menendez? That is, your examination suggested a rapid sequence in terms of the shots being fired in quick succession.
All the autopsy evidence suggests that, and that they were all ante-mortem.
Thank you. That's all I have, Doctor.
You never went to the crime scene in this case, is that correct?
Yes.
So all you can do is look at photographs that we have for you, correct?
Correct.
I'm showing you a photograph which has been marked as Exhibit 95, which appears to depict which side of Mrs. Menendez's body?
The left side.
Okay, now I believe in your testimony you indicated that many of the wounds to Mrs. Menendez, especially to her legs, it appears, were in fact on the left side of the body. Is that correct?
At least two were on the left leg and one on the behind the left knee. That's correct.
Now, in this particular photograph, 95, would you say it's clear that the wound to the back of her knee, which we call wound number 8, could not have been inflicted in this particular position? Can you say that?
If that's the position the leg's in, I don't see how, because that area is hidden or concealed by the bending of the knee.
Now, as to you've described injury number 7, I believe, in your testimony. Do you see anything in this photograph 95 that corresponds to injury number 7?
Well, I see a heavy blood stain on the left hip region, extending up to the waist region.
Do you also see the area which you call the graze wound, which is wound number 9, in this photograph?
I believe I do, yes. The heavy blood stain and some dark material on the outer side of the left calf, yes.
In addition, I believe you testified earlier that there were 2 wounds to the left side near her face. One is we call wound number 1, which was the contact wound, and one is the wound area number 4, which is the shoulder and the ear area. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in this photograph, you can't see her head exactly, but it appears that her head is rested on the right side. That would be consistent with what you see in the photograph, correct?
Correct.
Dr. Golden, do you know how long it takes for a human heart to stop pumping blood once there has been inflicted an immediately fatal wound?
Well, if it's immediately fatal, it would be immediate stoppage of vital function. In other words, respiration and heartbeat.
Do you know in this case how long the heart continued to pump after the wounds were inflicted?
In each individual or just one of them?
Just in any of the wounds in either of the decedents, which you have classified as immediately fatal, do you have any knowledge as to how long the heart would have pumped after those wounds?
No, except the head, the shotgun wound of the head of José Menendez may have been. Again, I don't know for sure. The others on Mary Menendez, no, I do not know how long it would take for the heart to stop beating. That's correct.
By the way, do you know how long it takes to empty a shotgun, a 6-shot shotgun? Do you have any personal knowledge of that?
Objection, Your Honor. Interesting facts not known.
Sustained.
Dr. Golden, you've indicated in some of your testimony that shot could pass through one body and then go into another body. Is that correct?
Yes?
Would the passage from one body into another distort the pattern when it gets to the second body?
Objection, Your Honor, that's beyond his expertise.
Do you know?
Objection overruled. Can you answer that question? If you have the experience and background to do that, you can.
If by distort is meant change, then yes.
All right, that's what I meant. Would it change the pattern?
Yes, it can. It can cause a ricocheting effect, striking one target, which I would call the intermediate target or the primary target instead of the second. It can cause ricocheting, and then a close clustering can then become a widely dispersed pattern. Yes, that happens.
And lastly, you were asked about incapacitation. And for instance, we talked about the wound number 10 to Mrs. Menendez's hand. Would that be less incapacitating than, say, a wound that goes through the leg? In other words, let me back up. My question is, are some wounds more incapacitating than others?
Yes.
And is incapacitation a term which describes a range of events or a range of possibilities?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further.
Any recross?
A couple of questions. Doctor, is that photograph that was just put on the board depict what you described as wound number 7 for Mary Menendez?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
And that was the wound which I think you described as multiple pellet defects,
Yes.
indicating that that's a distant shot, correct?
Yes.
And what is the trajectory or direction of that shot?
Okay, we have to put that in the anatomical position, and I believe that trajectory would be, I'd like to check my report here. That trajectory, as best that I could determine, was from the outside in, and it was slightly front to back and proximal to distal. Proximal to distal meaning going from the toe toward the head.
I wonder on the diagram that's depicted there if you could draw in some arrows as to the direction of that particular
Yes.
wound. And if you could, just for clarification, draw in the direction of the other wounds as well. The trajectory of the other wounds.
All of
Would you be able
them?
to do that? If you could.
I don't think I can on the ones going front to back because
How about on 7? Do that on 7?
yes. Seven is hard for me to do because it's going from the outside of the thigh, and there's an exit on the back, so it's going inward towards the middle, and out the back, so it's from front to back, basically, and maybe a little bit upward, and from outward to inward. It's hard to, it's almost easier to do on the human body. It's basically going inward and sort of out through the back of the thigh. This is left, so that's the back, and there's a big exit hole on the back. So it's going from front to back and inward towards the middle.
When you say front to back, are you meaning perpendicular to where the green dot is?
Well, it's not. It's sort of. It's going inward towards the hip bone and then coming out in the back. So basically, it's going from the side inward a little bit.
So
Front to back means, well, this would be actually front, but it's on the side and it's going out the back of the thigh.
what I would like to know is whether you can show us in terms of the angle at which the shot is coming in.
Oh, I don't believe, with a distant wound such as this, that is, it's a 3-inch pattern of spread, so that means it's at a, again, I don't know, there's no exact way of knowing it, but at a 3 inches, that's going to be maybe several yards away, so that's going to be hard to get an angle.
My question, though, is the shot coming directly into the thigh as opposed to coming in at some angle?
It's coming in at an angle and it strikes the bone, the femur, and then probably ricochet off the femur out the back.
And what is the angle? Can you draw in the angle at which the shot is coming?
I don't believe so. I think what's happened here is the pellets have struck and fractured the femur, and then a lot of them have ricocheted off the bone and have gone out the back.
And could it be coming in directly perpendicular?
Yes.
In other words, if she's standing up, could that wound 7 be caused by someone standing at a distance and shooting directly into that wound, to that area?
Yes, that's possible. Yes.
And if that is, in other words, that's consistent with your examination?
Yes.
And if that were the way in which that wound was inflicted, would you say, given the position she's in, that the only way that could have come in perpendicular is if someone was on the ceiling shooting straight down? If she's lying down when that wound is inflicted.
Again, I can't tell you exactly where the person was, but the gun would have to be held at a distance away and shot downward if that's her final position.
In other words, if the wound was inflicted while she was lying down, as she's depicted in that photograph, and if the wound is coming in perpendicular, which you say is consistent with your examination, the shooter would have to be up on the ceiling shooting straight down, wouldn't he, or she?
Yes, or several feet, yes.
And the other possibility is she's standing up, is moving or in a stationary position, and the wound comes in directly into the thigh and passes through, and the exit wound is caused in the way your examination indicates.
Yes, that's another consistent interpretation, yes.
And wound number 8, which is the shot to the back of her left ankle, that could not possibly...
The popliteal fossa, behind the knee.
Yes. That wound could not possibly have been inflicted while she was in the position she's depicted in that photograph.
Yes,
correct?
that's correct.
That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, anything else?
No?
Okay, thank you. You may step down. You're excused.